How was your ride, Pete? Fun?
What's up, guys? Today I am super excited to be taking my first proper ride out on my newly rebuilt gravel bike. But let me tell you, this thing is epic. So if you haven't seen my last video where I stripped and rebuilt this bike, having had it sandblasted and powder coated, I'll link that up there somewhere. I haven't got a free hand at the moment. But essentially, this bike started life, whoa! But essentially, this bike started life as a Pinnacle Lithium 2 flat bar hybrid. So as a hybrid bike, it already had many of the characteristics that a gravel bike has anyway, except that it had fairly skinny 32mm tyres. Well, skinny compared to the 43mm tyres I've got in here at the moment. Not to mention that they were semi-slick commuter tyres, which wouldn't do on the gravel trails. However, to turn this into a proper gravel eating machine, I had to add drop bars and drop shifters, and as I mentioned, the 43mm knobbly tyres. And so I've come up to Thetford Forest today to test it out. Right, I've had to stop because one, it's very difficult to ride these trails with one hand and also hold a camera, and two, no one told me it was going to be this knackering. So I'm finally out on the bike after building it up. I've come up to Thetford Forest and I've been riding around for about an hour now on both the mountain bike trails and a bit of the smoother tarmac roads they've got up here. And let me tell you, this thing is a lot of fun. And so the video I was going to shoot today was just going to be about this bike, how good it was to ride it for the first time, and just generally talking about it. However, since riding it on and off road for the past hour or so, it got me thinking, is gravel the only type of bike that you need in 2023? So let's talk about that. So first off, what is a gravel bike? Well, in essence, it's a bike designed to go over a variety of different terrains, from gravel to dirt paths to smooth roads. So it's basically a cross between a road bike and a mountain bike. However, unlike a traditional road bike, it has much wider tyres to cope with the slippery stuff and a much more relaxed geometry. So you're just not in as aggressive a position as you would be on a road bike. So as a man in his 40s, let me tell you, I very much appreciate the sit up and beg nature of this bike, and it is infinitely more comfortable than my carbon fibre road bike. My position on that bike is automatically much more aggressive as soon as I sit down on it. I'm much lower, much more aero, and at the end of a 3 to 4 hour ride, my lower back is feeling it. And so as I say, this bike is definitely much more upright and certainly much more comfortable. But with the addition of the flared drop bars, I can also get down pretty aero while still having full control of the bike in the rough stuff. I've had to stop again. I'm absolutely shattered. I've done 24 miles up and down these gravel paths and trails, and I feel like I've done 60-70 miles on the road. Woo! Now, you might be wondering why I've come up to Thetford Forest to make this video. Well, firstly, because there are some awesome trails and gravel tracks up here, and it's only about an hour from me. And secondly, Jimmy, my good buddy who you may know from my other vlogs, is running a marathon up here today through the forest. So we've come up together, and I thought I'd come out and try the trails out, try this new gravel bike out, while he spends 3.5 hours running 26 miles. Rather him than I. Okay, so gravel bikes are pretty good on, funnily enough, gravel. But how are they on smoother roads? Well, the first thing you'll notice is the higher rolling resistance with those wider tyres. Well, what does that mean, I hear some of you asking? Well, with a wider tyre, you've got more rubber contacting the road, which means more friction. and therefore the tyres will roll more slowly. Match that with the fact that gravel tyres are slightly more knobbly than the very smooth road tyres, and you're increasing that rolling resistance even more. However, that's not to say that you can't get up a decent speed on this thing. And yes, while it's true you won't be winning the Tour of Flanders or Paris-Roubaix anytime soon, you will at least have the wheels to deal with those cobbles and any similar type of terrain. And honestly, you're not going to be getting left that far behind. Wider tyres aren't all negatives though. With the much wider surface area, you'll be able to skip much more easily over the gravel and rough stuff, and more importantly, any larger rocks that you come across. Wider tyres can also be run at much lower pressures, which means the ride's a lot more comfortable and a lot more spongy on the backside. So even on the roads, they'll be much better with dealing with some of those ride-ending potholes. So ultimately, you'll be more comfortable in the saddle for longer, which ultimately means you'll be able to ride for longer. And that's always a good thing. As I mentioned earlier, the flared bars will give you much more control over the gravel. Now, road bikes don't need such wide bars. You want those bars to be as narrow as possible, but that's not really necessary on gravel bikes, where control is ultimately the aim of the game, as you don't want a stray stone suddenly flicking your wheel to one side as you're going down the descent. Now, the other thing, and this is a big one for me, is just how versatile this bike is. The amount of times I've been riding on my road bike, seen an opening into a field or onto a dirt track and thought, man, I'd love to head down there, see where that goes. But my skinny 25mm wheels just ain't gonna take it. You don't have that problem with a gravel bike. You could be happily riding on the road 1 minute and then peel off onto a dirt track the next. The world literally becomes your playground. Right, so I'm just about to go and meet back up with Jimmy, which means I've been riding around these trails for nigh on 4 hours. And let me tell you, it has absolutely flown by. I could do another 4 hours. This thing is just unbelievable fun. I absolutely love this bike. And so, as I pointed out in the build video, despite the fact that she's a heavy girl at 12.63 kilos, and it took a bit to get her off the roof of my car this morning, that hasn't really become an issue at all. Largely because I've got a triple chainring at the front with a 22, 32, 42 tooth setup, and at the back an 11 to 32 cassette. So in my lowest gear, I'm pulling a ratio of 22 to 32. I could climb a cliff face on that thing. And in the top gear, I'm in 42 to 11. So even though it's not going to be the fastest in the world, to be honest, you don't really need it on a gravel bike, and it will still get you about at decent speed. So, to answer the very question that I posed at the beginning of this video, is a gravel bike the only bike you need in 2023? Well, honestly, the answer is, it depends. Now, I could never get rid of my carbon fibre road bike, but mainly because I built it by myself. It was the first bike I'd ever built, and it's just, well, it's my baby. And despite the fact that she leaves me aching every time I go out on her, I just couldn't abandon her like that. And there is just something about that super aggressive, fully tucked position going down a hill at 30-40 miles an hour that you just can't beat. However, if I was starting out all over again, knowing then what I know now, I think purely for versatility, options, and most of all fun, I would definitely be getting a gravel bike. And so if you're looking to get into cycling and you can only really afford one bike, but you want to do a bit of road riding and get onto the rougher stuff, well then in my opinion, it has to be gravel all the way. And if you did decide later on that you wanted to get more serious with road riding, well then you could just get yourself a slimmer pair of wheels and some skinnier tyres, instead of having to buy an entirely new bike. Right, let's go and find Jimmy. How you feeling? How was it?
Creaky. It's creaky. The old legs are gone a little bit. The quads.
Oh really?
Yeah, on fire. Yeah. Because it's a lovely trail. Running through here is gorgeous. It's absolutely lovely. 2 13.1 mile laps. So that's nice because you're not sort of going around the same places too often. But just, yeah, last 6 were
So what was your time?
3:31. Good fun.
Oh, mate,
I want
well
to try it
done.
on this as well.
Yeah.
I've done the run, so we'll swap.
Yeah. Do you want to walk?
You do the run and I'll do the oh, my legs are gone and I'll fall off.
But doesn't he look good with it?
Hey?
Right, so I've met a very tired Jimmy, and for good reason as well. Marathon in 3.5 hours. As I keep saying, rather him than I. But yeah, that was I had a very fun ride around Thetford Forest, and the sun's come out as well, which is absolutely beautiful. I have had, I don't think it's overstating it to say, I've had the most fun on a bike today than I've ever had. So I'm very much looking forward to getting Jimmy's gravel bike converted, and more news on that coming up very, very soon. Hey. But yeah, for now, it's time to get home, put the bike back on the roof, and if you get a chance to come to Thetford, definitely head here because it is awesome. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.